Good morning, everybody. Quick fun video of the day. Tons and tons of questions coming in about MicroStrategy and if it makes sense to buy as a quasi-call option in the future of Bitcoin. I'm going to tackle those questions right now with an arbitration calculator. So very interesting day in the market today. We're going to do this live and do it fast. So as usual, in math, we trust. Now, the questions that come out from everybody is MicroStrategy an ETF? I will answer it my way, and I don't want to cause any commotion, but they've purchased 91,326 coins, average cost $24,000. They've invested $2.2 billion. The value today is about 4.7 to 5 billion, depending on exactly what MicroStrategy is doing, and we're going to look at that in a second. They have an unrealized gain of 2.5 billion. That's nearly 2.5 times the enterprise value of was before they bought their first Bitcoin back late last year. So the easy way to think of it is MicroStrategy is 80% Bitcoin, but as the price of Bitcoin rises, it becomes more and more Bitcoin. And I'll show you that as well when we look at the model. So even though Saylor denies that MicroStrategy is a Bitcoin ETF, he simply says his investment in Bitcoin is for treasury management. Again, a little bit suspect. So let's look real quick at a couple of areas. Is there additional MicroStrategy intrinsic value? So if we look at their bond issuance that they did, I consider that a genius move, basically borrowing money to buy Bitcoin at 0%. And to the buyers of this bond, they perceive very little downside. And again, for them, it is a call option in the future of Bitcoin. So when they couldn't manage other ways to jump on Bitcoin or make Bitcoin part of their own treasury, they use this bond issuance to do that. And MicroStrategy Bitcoin holdings imbues scarcity on the value beyond the value of the core business. It's the coins that it holds. So that for me is the real wild card here. So if and when the coins run out, there could be a run on MicroStrategy because of their unique position. Risk, as always, we have to think about risk. And the risk for MicroStrategy is Bitcoin. There is also maybe some SEC risk as well, which I'll talk about at the end in the conclusions. But again, there's always a 1% chance or less than 1% chance that Bitcoin goes to zero. And if this were to happen, the MicroStrategy price would fall under $1 billion or under $100 a share, which is a big dip from where we are today. So let's look at the model and jump in live and show you what I've put together. So this is the MicroStrategy Arbitration Calculator for Patreon capitalists, and walking you through this real quick. So first of all, this model actually pulls in real-time data feeds. So you get the real-time quote. When I finished this a few minutes ago, MicroStrategy was at 590. So it's gone up 22 points in a few minutes. The number of Bitcoin they own is 91,326. And the Bitcoin price is again fed in here in real time. So you'll see the market cap as well as pulled directly from Google Finance. And the Bitcoin value, which is basically the Bitcoin owned multiplied by the Bitcoin price, is here. Call it $4.8 billion. The net cap is the value that I attach to MicroStrategy. Now, before they started buying Bitcoin, the market cap of MicroStrategy is about 1.15 to 1.2 billion. So I just call it 1.2 billion. And the total amount of shares outstanding is 9.5, call it 9.6 million shares. So you can do a background check on making sure all the math is correct. Now, if you look at Bitcoin future prices, I laid out a couple, 52,000, which is a real price today, 50,000, which is a scenario, quite possible. We got pretty close to that early this morning. 60,000, where we were 2 or 3 weeks ago. 75,000. A lot of people are calling for 77,000 as a target before the summer. Let's just put in 77,000 for argument's sake. And then 100,000. I think we have a very good chance of Bitcoin hitting 108,000 by the summer. And 150,000, 200,000, 300,000, and $500,000 per Bitcoin. And again, there's no concept of time here, but these months are definitely in the realm of possibility during 2021, with, of course, a lot of volatility. And we look at the Bitcoin value, which you talked about before, the MicroStrategy intrinsic value, the 1.2 billion I spoke about. Total theoretical value is those two combined. and then the actual intrinsic value without Bitcoin. This is where you get the arbitrage opportunity. Now, you can see the way it's changing here. So according to me, if you assume my number of intrinsic value of MicroStrategy is 1.2 billion, the actual stock price of MicroStrategy is undervalued by $12.33. Now, literally a few minutes ago, that was over $35. So it varies in real time. And when you see that big distance, when you have this model and you see something like a big red 33 or 35 or $40 here, which actually happened a few weeks ago when MicroStrategy went down to $540, this number was like $80, $90. So it was completely out of whack, and there was a very good arbitrage solution. So that's kind of the model. Real simple, real easy. You can play with it yourselves and have a good time. Now, if we do go to $500,000, there's a couple of things I want to mention. If this does happen, the actual intrinsic value of MicroStrategy will be about 2%. And the whole business, 98% of it, will be Bitcoin. This is the current value today, the actual, what I call the percentage share of Bitcoin as a part of the whole business is 80% and 20% intrinsic value. And again, as Bitcoin rises, that will rise too. So let's jump in to a couple of quick closing points. Quick conclusion as always. As Bitcoin rises, so will MicroStrategy. There will always be arbitration opportunities, and it's fun to play. Now, the thing that I really like to think of and why MicroStrategy actually went to $1,300 is probably because of the scarcity factor. And as Bitcoin value increases, the ratio of Bitcoin to the overall market cap will go down to 2.5% if Bitcoin goes to $500,000. And the other thing to consider, it's a very easy on-ramp for other people to get access to Bitcoin when they can't actually buy coins themselves, or they are limited by their 401k or pension fund, retirement fund, etc. It's a very easy way to get an on-ramp to Bitcoin. But beware, as always, there's always risk, SEC risk. Bitcoin black swan event could drive everything to zero. But in the meantime, it's fun to play.